Maddie, let's go for poll.
Okay, I'm initiating. So we will have 3 questions out here. I'm sorry, 2 questions, and each one will have about 30 seconds. The first one goes right now. So last 5 seconds for this question. After this poll will be closed for this question. Second question for this poll. Last 10 seconds for this poll. Most of them I've taken. Still, there are a couple of them left, so I'll just close it up. Sort of the polls are done. The first 2 ones, let me know when the results to be shared.
Yeah, I think we can share it while people are just logging in.
Okay. The first poll question was the results over here right now. This is about the professional experience that currently the audience have, and it seems to be currently split between 11 to 20, about 43%, and 57%, which is greater than 20 years. This poll question was about the job function that we have in our audience today. Obviously, this would help our panelists more to address. Here's the result. Business and operations happens to be the highest, which is about 86%, followed by training and development. So that's it. The first 2 polls results published. You can take over from here.
Okay, thank you. So while people are coming in, good morning, everybody. And let's start with, how many we do you have right now, Maddie? You have 9 people. Okay.
9.
Right. We are 5 minutes into the hour, and let's start with the intro. So thank you. Good morning. Good noon to some people. And this is our fourth session in the WOW series campaign that we are running. I'm Saurav, and I'm from SkillEarn, a ticket platform where we are, going through some of the, leading edge certification courses globally. So what we do are into six verticals, going from organization resilience, where we are tied up with ICOR, which is International Consortium for Organization Resilience, based out of the United States, uh, specifically looking into the courses called as CORM, Certified Organization Resilience Manager, and CORE, or Certified Organization Resilience. We are doing in terms of the organization resilience, both of these courses from the perspective that today it's the need of the hour. Going into, we have got our second vertical into emerging technologies, which we feel will be ruling through for the next decade, from digital marketing to cyber security, data analytics, and blockchain initiatives. We've got leadership and management, where we are doing design thinking, problem solving, and some of the other leading from project management and decision making from the data. Those are some of the things that we are doing. And into STEAM and STEAM, which is our fourth vertical, we are doing robotics, artificial intelligence, and electronic circuit designing. The linguistic program, which is important, and we are ensuring that English as a global language in the boardroom as well as in the official work. We have the business English courses, and last but not the least, the life skills, which are most important for us to be successful, from finance for life to integrity and empathy, which are seems to be the lifeline for us. Coming to the certification courses, which I mentioned, specifically, we are talking about organization resilience over here. We are the authorized training partner to ICOR, which is International Consortium for Organization Resilience, and the two certification courses, which are globally recognized. Some of our people last time were present who have already been certified from India, and there are people internationally who are taking the courses. They are Certified Organization Resilience Manager. And for this community who are going to be for today, we have the CORE, which is Certified Organization Resilience Executive, and it covers technology interface also, which is one of the few courses which covers in the technology as an interface, apart from having the people, the process initiatives included. So we will go for a message from ICOR, which is from Linda. Just give me a second while I play the video.
Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about ICOR, the International Consortium for Organizational Resilience. We are all about embedding the culture and systems of organizational resilience into every organization. My name is Linda Nelson, and I'm the founder and president of ICOR. ICOR is the global leader in organizational resilience. We educate, we credential, and we lead. And you can find more about us on buildresilience.org. ICOR's purpose is to empower individuals with the knowledge necessary to increase the resilience of their organizations and communities. We also want to be the global source for education and credentialing in organizational resilience. And finally, provide a forum in which professionals can interact and contribute to resilience of their organizations and communities. We do this work through our training partners. SkillEarn is ICOR's training partner in India and the surrounding region, and we really depend on our partners to deliver leadership for organizational resilience. ICOR utilizes several roads to resilience to communicate different strategies and ways to manage risk and to increase your organization's resilience. One of these is through our iCorrespondence newsletter, which is a blog, and it comes out monthly or sometimes more often. We also have just started launching some podcasts, and we have a couple of podcasts that take an in-depth look and look at doing some interviews on different topics in organizational resilience. And finally, we have webinars. Our webinars are hosted monthly, and in addition, SkillEarn is now offering an organizational resilience webinar series with ICOR as its knowledge partner. As the global leader in resilience frameworks and models, we have a community resilience framework. This framework is focused on the community. We also have the organizational resilience model and the organizational resilience framework. The two of these are really focused on increasing the resilience of the organization. Finally, we have the organizational resilience competency model, and this is focused on the individual. ICOR has launched in early 2020 an organizational resilience capability assessment. This assessment allows you to measure your individual capabilities with organizational resilience as well as the behaviors that you exhibit. And you can see a little bit here of the different strategies and dimensions that are covered in our organizational resilience capability assessment. ICOR has the only organizational resilience assessment that includes both capability measures as well as behavior metrics. In addition to helping organizations become more resilient and to get a measure of their capabilities, we also have identified competencies that the individual needs to have in order to lead their organization in making a more resilient organization. We recognize those competencies with our certification program as a certified organizational resilience manager, professional, and executive. We also have a series of courses that focus on those competencies to help you earn the ICOR credentials. The purpose of the program is to learn what it takes to be a leader in organizational resilience and to understand the competency areas required to lead an organization's resilience strategy. It is intended for those responsible for increasing the resilience of the organization and for managing risk throughout the organization. These courses provide you with the knowledge of how to build more resilient organizations. When we look at our competency model, this really identifies what it takes to be a leader in organizational resilience and helps you to understand what do you need to know to increase the resilience of your organization. It defines the competencies and knowledge necessary for those designated to intentionally increase the resilience of the organization. It supports organizational resilience practitioners in their career and professional development and helps organizations build approaches to identify and cultivate high-quality organizational resilience leaders, individual contributors, and teams. Our model is comprised of 5 clusters. Each cluster is comprised of 5 competency areas for a total of 5 clusters and 25 competencies. And those range from organizational behavior, organizational infrastructure, preparedness and managing risk, technology infrastructure, and continual improvement. Depending on how many competencies you complete, helps you to earn the manager, the professional, and the executive level of certification. If you would like to learn more, you can visit both the ICOR and the SkillEarn websites. You can contact us by phone or by email.
Okay, so that was Linda. Thank you, Linda, for speaking to us. And why are we here today? So, okay. So after having successfully finished the previous 3 weeks, we are in the 4th week. We have completed the people, the place, the workplace, and the process. We are bringing in, SkillEarn is bringing in the technology session, a wonderful panel that we have got today. And this initiative of the WOW, we are calling it as the weekly online webinar series, is brought to you by SkillEarn in partnership with ICOR being the knowledge partner, MitKat, our industry partner, and we have got our consulting partner as XLead. So let us, without any ado, find out why we are here. In terms of our themes today are going to be system resilience, immediate challenges that we have faced or are facing, which are to be addressed, and how to operate in a new world or reality, if you want to call that. The theme two being systems and technology, the key differentiator for the future business success in the new world. So without much ado, I would like to call in our panel. So Aditya, all yours.
Great. Thank you so much for setting the stage there, Saurav. And I'm really excited to be here. Hello to everyone. I'm Aditya. I will be moderating the session today, and the hope is that we're going to try and run this session in a method that's as interactive as possible. So obviously, I do understand that everyone's here trying to get some sort of an outcome out of this session. So please try and make sure that you're interacting with us, you're asking questions at whatever point, and we will pick up these questions along the way, and try and make sure we help you achieve the outcomes that you were set out to achieve before joining the session. So a little bit about me. I'm Aditya, and I work at this company called HubSpot. For those who haven't heard of us before, HubSpot's marketing and sales automation software. We've been in business for the last 15 years, headquartered out of Boston. I look after the India business, predominantly from the perspective of helping small and medium businesses in helping them figure out their sales and marketing pieces, and helping really streamline marketing and sales from a technology perspective. Really, for me, resilience, makes 90% of the conversations I have with, an SME customer of ours, primarily from that marketing standpoint, where there is so much, there's so much offline marketing that one used to do prior to the pandemic, doing expos, going and doing other forms of offline marketing, which is completely dried up. Right, and my day-to-day conversations and what resilience really means to me is, helping them adapt to a new way of approaching marketing and sales, where everything is now happening remotely, where digital is the new norm, and really, I'm helping these businesses in understanding that and adapting to this new normal from a marketing and sales standpoint. So what really excited me when Saurav asked me to come join this webinar was the rest of the panel. Obviously, I'm only about 5 years into my career, so I might not be the best person to be sharing a whole lot of knowledge or help you achieve the outcomes that you came here to achieve. My role is really going to be to make sure that I help the rest of the panel answer your questions and answer some of the questions that we have for them. So for the next couple of minutes, what I'm going to quickly do is go around the panel, getting the panel to introduce themselves and give us a little bit of a background in terms of what resilience means to them, and their thoughts on the current situation that the market's going through. So why don't we start with Mr. Swaroop. Swaroop, over to you.
Okay, can you hear all of you?
Yes, sir.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good noon. Yeah, I think thank you, Aditya, for me to give the opportunity, and everyone. So about me, I think I just want to tell that yes, I've been in the industry for 25 years, and at present I'm working for a company called Bacteria Edge. They're in the software development and working on few of the things what we are talking in terms of resilience and how to adopt few of the technology and digitization to handle the current situation. And my role is to build a team here in India and globally to support this activity for the company. One interesting thing I want to tell, and this happened very realistically or in a real manner, that I got this job offer in the month of April. And it was a very unique experience for me, to be very frank, because I was being interviewed. I never visited my office. I never saw my manager, who is my country manager. I was being e-boarded, right? So everything happened over the email. I scanned my copy, everything I did. And to be very frank, I'm going through this very unique experience where I'm hiring people. Everybody I've hired, I have not seen them physically. Everything is over the phone and over the video call, and we are able to deliver globally the service what we are supposed to do. So that's very, very unique experience I want to sort of share with all of you in that way, where I'm going through that situation in a real manner. So yes, so I think thanks, and we'll talk a little bit more about a few of the topics we are going to handle. So thank you, Aditya. Yeah.
Good. So can we move to the next slide? Perfect. Abhishek, can you take over?
Yeah, sure. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, very much.
All right, thank you. Welcome to all the attendees who have joined. Thank you for your time. So my name is Abhishek. I'm part of Microsoft's India Development Center team, and I am part of the security engineering team, which basically means that I get to develop various technologies and services, which basically protects Microsoft from all the attackers and malicious actors and things like that. So it's an exciting role. I'm always in some interesting situation where we are trying to defend ourselves, we're trying to defend our employees, customers, and in that process getting better, right? For me, I would say resilience is a situation where we are kind of creating opportunities out of the adverse situation that we have, and I think most organizations are doing that, right? So they are finding ways to not just survive, but they are trying to grow, right? So they are trying to find unique ways in which they can turn all this adversity into various kinds of opportunities, and I think that's what is going on right now. We are getting a lot more innovative, I would say, right? And I would kind of I was very much intrigued by what Mr. Ghosh shared just now in terms of how he kind of onboarded to his new role, and there's something similar that I experienced over the last 8 weeks. And I don't know if all of some of you may be aware of that, but this is the season when a lot of interns join the organization, right? So a lot of people are passing out from different colleges, and they're all seeking jobs and they want to do internship, and all of them were quite worried. I suppose so, because they would be wondering how would they kind of do their internship, how would they kind of join the companies, right? And we kind of in Microsoft, we just finished an 8-week internship with 500 interns, all remotely, right? And that was a unique experience. I am sure that it's a unique experience for the interns, and it was a unique experience for us. We tackled a lot of different challenges, definitely not the best that we hoped for, but we did it, and we were successful in that. And that happened because there were a lot of people who put their energies behind it, a lot of different thinking, a lot of different innovative ways in which we did it, right? So that was a unique experience that I quickly thought I'll also add to Mr. Ghosh's input. Thank you.
Great. No, makes a lot of sense there, Abhishek. In fact, that is one of the biggest elements of the new normal. A lot of people joining in remotely, and there has just been a forced innovation with training and some of these aspects of business, which I completely can empathize with. Up next, we have Mr. Venugopal. Venu, can you quickly do an intro of yours as well?
So thanks a lot, Aditya. I have been instrumental in helping a lot of organizations during this period of the COVID and post-COVID times, where we have now acknowledged that things are getting back to normal. And for me, the simple definition of resilience is a capability to recover from any situations. It's not just in the business, it's in life, and a lot of people are recovering with, you know, they're recovering from COVID also back in their life, getting back. Some of the people are recovering from some diseases. So resilience has been the capability to bounce back. As teenagers, resilience was a capability to bounce back from a bad relationship. As a professional, it's a capability to bounce back from your situations in your job, the changes which are happening in your organization. As a business person, as a founder, co-founder, it's changing to the changing business etiquettes, business paradigm shift, changing to the economy, how you are able to bounce back to it and cope up quickly. The person who copes up the best is most resilient, and they are more successful. And that we'll be coming up with good examples if you see in the industry that a lot of people are doing that. As already other panelists have highlighted, that a lot of organization already had a planning for them, but it is the best strategy to fight back when you get something which is unplanned. So, and we have seen a lot of people doing that. We have seen a lot of companies changing their strategy and becoming a manufacturer in hand sanitizers who are manufacturers of beauty products. We have seen companies like Wildcraft shifting from bags to masks. So there is a lot of waves around big companies, how they're shifting and how they are doing a paradigm shift. And that is for me is resilience. And we will be talking more about it in this session. So that is all about what I wanted to talk.
Perfect, perfect. No, love the analogies there, and couldn't agree more with you, Venu. Moving on, Imran, can you take a couple of minutes to do your introduction? I think you're muted, Imran. Still on mute, I feel, yeah.
Imran, you need to unmute on the screen panel.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So somewhere it was also muted by the organizer. No worry. So my name is Imran Iraqi. I'm part of Control S and Cloud 4C. So we as an organization evolved around all sort of business continuity to resiliency to alternate avenues of creating the infrastructure available predominantly around the data center and cloud businesses, and we are pioneer in this space. Now, without speaking much on, this is not a marketing session, without speaking much about my firm, let me see my perspective about resiliency. Resiliency to how we had been groomed at Controllers and Cloud 4C, let me tell you. I'm part of that group, hold the resiliency charter as part of the cybersecurity leader within the company, and also responsible to roll out the core charter of business continuity, cybersecurity, cyber defense across the industry in public-private partnership in various industry and fora. So resiliency to me is acceptance of reality, driven by a strong sense of leadership, and the organization reacted with a human-centric way. See, most of the organization, we heard a lot of things in the COVID scenario. What we learned about the differentiator between a good organization and a bad organization, a big organization, a small organization, was how they face the reality, how their leadership was driven to, and how as a culture they were centric towards the human, both for the employees and for the stakeholder inside and outside the organization. And that's the reflection of the organization in the new normal. Your balance sheet is not the means that you are a good organization. Your indices are not the things. The new currency in digital age for enterprises is how resilient you are in the as an organization, and that reflection reflects you how to build a robust, resilient organization. That's why my partner Saurav and his team try to inculcate the practice of resiliency in the organization. Some believe resiliency means having set of good servers and storage. No, a big partner like us, or maybe have state-of-the-art cybersecurity technology. Even that's no. When you bring this core principle of resiliency, you are actually completing the full mantra, right? So this is a short explanation of resiliency from my point of view. I leave it to the moderator if they want to ask me any more question around it.
Great. Wonderful, Imran. Really appreciate that. And finally, we have Mr. Kishore. Can we get your introduction as well, really quick?
Yes, Aditya. Thanks for that. And good morning, all. This is Kishore here. Actually, I have around 30 years of experience. I work for a company called Birlasoft, and my overall experience is on the both sides. To be more precise, I have worked for a IT organization where I was leading the internal IT function. That's one. But most of my career is also where I was interfacing to the business. Okay, so I have seen both the sides of the table, to be more precise. And in this forum, looking at the resiliency part, I believe most of the panelists have given explanation about what resiliency means to them. But I think I would like to add a few addition to it quickly. So resiliency, of course, is covering more all the resiliency aspects of wherever you look for, right? It is more about human, technology, and all other aspects. But what is more important is the situation currently what we are into. What makes more visible is about the agility what you show in such situations. The agility makes you more proactive, to be more precise, and adapting to whatever changes are coming on your way. So along with resiliency, it is more about agility. How do you show that in your action so that you will be able to sustain? That's what my take is on that part. Thanks, Aditya. Over to you.
Wonderful.
If you can give just about a minute or two for Maddie to roll out the polls while the panelists get ready for the team one. Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
So Aditya, I'll roll out the third question on the second poll. And in the meanwhile, if you have some comments to make, you can, I think, continue with that.
Yeah, no, so I think I'm just going to quickly encourage everyone to fill up this poll. Let's, again, as mentioned earlier, try and keep this as interactive as possible. So a good way to do that is by just taking a quick look at where we're at with our current status quo individually.
Five seconds more for this question, then I'll pull out the next one, please. I would urge the audience to take this poll because this will really make the conversation interesting for us for both the topics that we are going to focus today.
Yeah, I agree. And this is an intriguing one. I really want to see what responses come out of this one.
So I'm going to close this poll, and Aditya, let me know when do you want the results to be published.
Yeah, I think we can quickly share the results, maybe right now. Yeah.
Go ahead with that. And this is the results for the question. Does your organization follow resilience? Everybody has agreed yes, so which is a great thing.
Wow.
And the most interesting question which will take our conversation forward. Systems, virus, and malware seems to be the biggest problem that people had faced, which is about 60%, network connectivity about 20%, and desktop laptops hardware issues about 20%. So Aditya, it's over to you now. You can take over.
Great. Thanks for that, Maddie. So really for the rest of the conversation today, what we're going to go ahead and do is break up the conversation into two themes, as Saurav was introducing earlier. The first theme is really going to be around systems resilience and some of the immediate challenges that need to be addressed when operating in this new reality from a system standpoint. Right. So over the course of each of these themes, I've got some specific questions for our panelists, which I'm going to get them to answer. And again, for the rest of the panel, please feel free to chime in with any of these individual questions. If you've got any additional thoughts to share, let's try and make sure that even internally within the panel, we are interacting with each other. So really, the first question I have is more around unlocking, going out of the lockdown mode and being more productive when back at work. And my first question is for Kishore. And the question is, what are some of the lessons that you've learned from your recent experience and course correction taken as against the planned strategies to accommodate for any future disruption? Really, in short, what are some of the challenges of working from home, and what was the role of technology in addressing these, this new normal that we're all in?
Yeah, sure, Aditya. Thanks. So to be more precise, whatever we have seen, the current episode of last 4 or 5 months, it is one of its kind. In the entire century, we have not seen such things happening around, and which has actually changed the way of working for the people when the lockdown was declared, right? Especially the IT gears in the technology front, whatever was deployed, although they had their resiliency internally, they built for the DR aspect. But when you say that people are going to move out and they'll be working remotely from home, or maybe remotely from anywhere to be more precise. So which has called for a lot of things as a change for the organization, more from a technology standpoint, more from an operational standpoint. So a lot of people have faced challenges on, especially the way people have said about the virus and the security part. When the people started working from more about remote from anywhere. Okay, so it is more about the infrastructure was geared up for to maintain the security and the antivirus related protection within the organization. But when you go out, right, how do you do that effectively? That is what we're actually been seen as a challenge. Another big challenge was more about how do you equip people to work from anywhere. So it could be called for the more number of laptops, or how do you enable them remotely to work effectively by publishing the application. So just as people have gone for the VDI kind of environments where virtual desktops were given to them, those are very secured, which are part of your data center, but being consumed around remotely. They have also gone for a couple of things related to application publishing, like technologies used with Citrix like capabilities, wherein the application is published, but it is in a controlled manner. So like these, many of the things have got as a change. The biggest thing is what I have seen, and when we interact with our customers also, those who have already started their journey for digitization, those who have already on the par of the cloud adoption, they have sustained well. And now post removal of the lockdown also, they could be maintaining their productivity. But those who were not started or they were on their journey, they have strategized or they've changed their strategy to make sure that the new things are coming on their way. So they have adopted for the security products, which are cloud based, wherein it can support them from anywhere, to be more precise, rather than only depending on to the on-premise infrastructure to complement them. So likewise, they have gone ahead and adopted for the latest technologies, and to be more precise, software as a thing, and where the control is more from an admin part of it remotely also can be enabled. So that way, I think we have seen that both from the internal function and to the external function, people have changed their strategies. That's what I have, Aditya.
Perfect, perfect. No, very crisp. Completely relate to that. I think really when I first heard about some of the early cases in China, I don't think any of us foresaw the magnitude of what was coming, and what all of us individually need to prepare for within our organizations and our personal lives as well, of course. And I think really what's the biggest thing that's happened over the last few months is, obviously this is a very unprecedented situation for most markets, and really the magnitude of it has been scaling at such a large extent that we are pretty much now working towards this being the new normal for a very long time, right? So really do associate to some of the aspects that you mentioned there, Kishore. It was just so quick that we've had to adapt to some of these things, especially when it comes to IT and infra. It is still something very, very specific, some of the things that we need to do. And it was great hearing from you and your thoughts. Anyone else on the panel, any thoughts on that you've got with this particular question around some of your lessons that you've learned from a technology standpoint, working from home and enabling working from home in your organizations in a better way?
So this is myself, Imran Iraqi. So we are basically a customer-driven organization, handling more than 3,500 customers. And the way our technology works means we need to ensure that our staff are geared to handle technology from our knock and SOC. Now, ever since the unprecedented times of COVID started in and the cities started getting closed, we didn't anticipate it at one point of time whether our clients would accept the fact that our support staff would be allowed to work from home, even if the technology is available. The second most challenge was not on the technology aspect, but was on the customer impact. See, we are into a support business, which is into cloud, which is into data center, which is into hosting. Now, if those many customers are getting out of gear and they are not getting the right services, their IT team will have limited fallback in place. So that was the most impact we anticipated. But when we gave our team the freedom with the right kind of security in place, as a matter of fact, we found that our NPS score increased. It has increased what we have not seen in the last 6 quarters. We got many happy customers. So that was one of the unique learning that we have in while you have the technology in place. It is also important that how essentially you are going to take care of the customer impact. While we thought of bringing in the security and everything in place, we also did a lot of deep learning with our staffs as to what is more flexible to them. All of us must have witnessed in this panel, were all bombarded with a number of web conferences and Zoom meetings and team meetings, so on and so forth. The calendars got bombarded. We gave the team the right kind of flexibility in terms of the right calendars to be charted out. Found out what is the pain areas which is affecting their time sheet. And that was a unique experience that we came out across in this COVID situation as an organization. While we helped many organizations to bring back to normal, enabling them with desktop as service, enabling their DR site to operate as a primary site for a continued period of time. All this thing continued to, many of them organizations didn't have VPNs and SDP in place. So all those things fall in place, which we did in this shortest span of time. But this was a unique experience I wanted to share to the audience.
Great. Thanks for that, Imran. Again, definitely relate to it. Very unique perspective there. Okay, so let's do this. Let's move on to the second question that I have for Venu. And my question is, what are some of the changes in business and strategic growth for the year of 2020? And how is that impacting business models and organizational transformation?
So that's a pretty relevant question, Aditya. So now if we see that the overall challenge is now between the growth versus survival. So now it was previously 3 months back, or people who have started their year in January were talking about growth. They were talking about what are their fields of engagement, what are the new technologies they want to engage with. But now the challenge is survival. So post in these 3 months, there is a paradigm shift in the whole industry in terms of how they do the business, what they are doing, what they wanted to do, what were their challenges have changed. So now if we see, the first challenge was running your business because there was no disaster. So as we plan for disaster. So again, therein the play of resilience was coming in, that how I bounce back, because there is no disaster, there is no earthquake, there is no flood, there is nothing. All my property is intact and nature is running on its own serenity. Nature is very happy, less pollution, less vehicles on the road, but there are no people. So the problem was, how do I sustain this thing? How do I come back and bounce back from this situation? So the first things were, all their funds which were supposed to go in their growth, so their travel funds were zero. So because now there is no traveling, so whatever they had set aside for travel can be utilized in a specific manner in some areas, but how do they grow their business? Their clients are not available. Virtualization, meeting virtualization, computing, these all things were there with organizations. But now it was a time for the organizations who didn't consider this in the mainstream to consider them as a mainstream. If you are in the information technology industry, you are in a software development firm, you are in a software service firm, you were always used to such virtual meetings and virtual events and all, but suddenly it took the mainstream. So there is a challenge around, how do you make this adoption to the industry. So there were a lot of OEMs who did a lot of virtual partner meets this time for the first time, or else they used to happen in a good ambience in a big hotel with all food, fun and frolic, with a lot of people coming in. It was a huge event. But this time it was like, the challenge was to invest, how to retain the people in it, how to create interest out them, how to get in gamification in it, how to kind of have attention for the people to be there, because it's a virtual mode, and in a virtual mode things work differently. So their whole investments of an organizations got shifted to adoption of digital transformation, instead of just a investment in overall growth and strategy and hiring new people. So now it was hiring people versus retaining people, because you have now productivity might be increased, might not be increased, but you have no way to gauge that. So if you see, a lot of features are coming up based on AI, wherein people have started implementing in their organization to see their productivity. Let's say, for example, if we go to manufacturing industry, few example of big retail giants, they have gone online within a matter of 15-20 days. They were able to bounce back, but some of them are still out, and the retail industry is projected to grow around 25% this overall year for the whole world, in terms of the e-commerce market, not in terms of their traditional retail. So a lot of people did a transformation in their business model. If you see Bayani Group, if you see a lot of other big retail outlets, they had left a lot of their retail outlets in March, and in April they planned, and they had exited. And then second changes were around that, how do they control this spend, and they had to filter down a lot of discounts over to their customers, over to their and they had to ask in for a lot of discounts from the overall vendors they were using it. So these all transformation negotiations on a fly without meeting a person. You're getting my point? So that whole thing was that, how do I achieve this? So these challenges, a lot of organizations have already now embraced various methods, various technologies, various platforms to kind of achieve that. But yes, that was the area where a lot of things had changed. So all the budgets, all the relevant cash flows, all the relevant allocations had changed in to the technology adoption and how do we do it. There were a lot of people who had to buy things where technology sales were there to run their business as usual, but the new investments have now shifted to certain people thinking of robotics. Let's say, for example, in the healthcare industry, they have been, a buzzword of getting in robots to basically serve this COVID patient so that we have less minimal interaction. Now, suddenly the healthcare industry has gone into producing ventilators and masks, and you will be surprised to know that SIDBI had allocated a good amount of fund, couple of thousand crores, which just vanished, which was just for the COVID, for the COVID support, people who are manufacturing or doing something related to COVID, that disappeared within a span of 25 days. It was empty because there were legitimate people doing things. They quickly transformed. People who were making clothes, who were exporting clothes, quickly turned into making PPE kits. People who are doing bags, who are doing certain other things, quickly transformed into making masks. People who are doing beauty products or Ayurvedic products or anything related to chemicals, quickly transformed to do their sanitizers. IT companies which were non-ITC ITC providers or the infrastructure providers, they quickly partnered with certain companies. And the best thing which has happened during this is, during the whole industry avenue, is people have started partnering with others for the growth. So now it's not a taboo that if I am a provider of a specific service, I won't partner with someone else. But now this is very open, and if you see the small medium enterprises, they are partnering with their with their mind open and with their hands open. They're doing excellent contracts for partnership to make their service and serve their customer, because this is the time I cannot set up anything. I cannot move out of house. So today, if I think I have money and if I think to set up a manufacturing unit for a specific or a research unit, I cannot do it because I cannot move out of house, right? So that is the challenge. You might have funds, you might have everything, but now the challenge is to overall, put them to work. So it can only happen right now with partnerships, and those funds are being transferred in terms of setting up right partnership goals and connects. And a lot of people are, that is the basic change. If you would see in the overall industry, that funds have now been redirected to employee well-being, employee retainment, and ways of new technology adoption, not on technology, because everybody had technology. Now they are trying to see how I can adapt, and the best opportunity for any SMEs or any service provider is optimization and rationalization of the existing investment for the customer, so that he get paid for his effort and the customer does not have to invest in anything. So that would be all from my end, Aditya.
Perfect. No, that was, I really like that response. And frankly, like, I relate to your response a whole lot, because on a day-to-day basis, really, when I have a lot of new business acquisition conversations with potential businesses, one thing we look at is one thing we've noticed with new business acquisition over the last quarter is that there are three kinds of businesses, right? So there is that first category, which is actually seeing an uptick, which is actually growing in this period. We've got e-commerce, logistics, education to a large extent. These are businesses which are really booming at times like this. There's a second category which constitutes of companies which are adapting. So these are your adapt companies, which are really I think a bulk of your conversation was around that, and a lot of businesses wanting to remain in business. Not, obviously the idea is to never lay off your employees and to remain a going concern as a business. And how do we do that as a business, and how do we adapt? And a lot of my conversations have been around that in the last quarter. And the final is obviously the ones who are just trying to survive, who are just trying to make sure that they are trying to do everything in their power to lean down their businesses, to be as lean as possible with their ops, and overall just trim down any excess fat to make sure that they're surviving and they come out of this alive. So really, I think that second category of adapt, there are a lot of organizations that are trying to adapt. I think about 80% of my conversations are companies who are trying to talk to me around digital transformation, are trying to figure out ways in which they can transform marketing and sales, and figure out new ways or new avenues in which they can be going to market, right? So you're a startup all over again. You're back to the whiteboard. You're back to figuring out your go-to-market and figuring out how can we redo or recreate our business model in a logical way given the current situation. So no, really, Venu, that really enjoyed that response of yours. Thank you so much for that. What I'm going to do also here is take a quick step back from the questions. I'm going to encourage our attendees to also ask us some questions so I can route that to someone relevant within the panel. I see that there's been no question so far, so I'm guessing one of two things is happening. Either you're agreeing with everything that's being said, and that's helping you reach your outcome for this conversation, or we aren't engaging you enough. I really hope it's not the latter, and if it is, I would really encourage you to ask us some questions so we can interact with you as well, right? So again, if someone doesn't know how to do that, please feel free to drop a question, and we can show you how to ask these questions within the platform. But yeah, like in the interest of time, what I'm going to do is jump to my next question, which is again for Mr. Kishore. And the sub theme here is really around communicating and collaborating. And the question for you is, what would be the landscape for messaging and collaboration tools during these changing times? And what are some of the special features that we may see in the near future that may better our work productivity?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Aditya, for that elaborative question. So basically about collaboration, to be more precise, it started with messaging as a platform earlier, right? And then people started moving on to chat, and then the effective video communication, then web conferencing. This is the evolution of the entire collaboration suite, I would say. But it is when it comes to collaboration, it is not only about these subsets, but how do we give them a unified view of all this in one? Okay, so people have invested in the early times when they have invested into unified communication as a product, right? And they started consuming it. But in the difficult times, it is more about the enterprise which were actually availing these facilities, and they were actually siloed working in their environments. Because of this pandemic situation, many of them have gone to cloud-based platforms for having the effective partnership with their partners to their end customers, also within the organization. And these were scalable ones. So to be more precise, these unified collaboration tools have given them more productivity for the effectiveness in their work, and also more from a business side of enabling business to work more effectively when they are remotely working. Now, to give you an example about how does this collaborative change is actually impacted to many industries. So one of them is medical industry. We have seen that many people have seen that hospitals are flooded with lot many things, but people have also used latest technologies such as robots, wherein robots are going near to the patients, where in this situation we are not able to touch the patients, right? But there are gears available from Cisco and other people where they are tightly integrated with the medical equipments and do they video conferencing with the patient and do remote checkup of them, to collaborative communication with the tools which are embedded into the video call itself, wherein they can see the report, they can talk to the customer, to the patient, and do the thorough analysis. And doctor is not sitting next to the patient. So in a way, like these are changing times are actually enabling people to do a effective delivery of their services to the human mankind. And in this case, we have seen also that such tools are also being adopted into the factory environments or where the critical services are there, where a 24 hours service is required, but you don't have SME on ground because of the lockdown. People might have not there available going into those locations. There also people have used such technologies where they're using such video communication along with the control facility, wherein they will be controlling the other end to give the services. The best example for bringing up the productivity for the business people who are working remotely in their own tools. So just as one example is Microsoft Teams. So in the Microsoft Teams, you get lot many features which are integrated. So although you have voice, video, chat available, but you also have apps publishing there. So you can integrate your multiple applications. So just as ServiceNow or maybe see some ERPs, those can get integrated into Teams, and wherein within the same interface, user will be able to do lot many actions proactively and also with effectiveness. Meaning, when I say effectiveness, it is more about how do you bring those insights in the same app, wherein the person in the same login, he will be able to do lot many things, giving a productivity to the business and also taking the in the moment decisions. In the moment decisions will help him in improving the productivity. So likewise, these are the areas where enterprise have changed the way they were working. The another area where people have seen the drastic change is the way our education industry was working previously. Lot many people have not adopted for the online education. In India, the biggest challenge was about the internet, but over the period, internet has gone to the rural areas and also across the world, the internet was always there. But then adoption of online learning was not in a big way. But what we have seen now is that lot many new platforms have come to the fit to the purpose of the requirement, meaning everybody is not going for a big platform for the learning thing. Many new ventures have come up where the new learning platforms are being developed, wherein people are adopting to it, right from the schooling to the colleges to the professionals. Now all these platforms are there and people are making use of it for effective collaboration, communication, and the education, to be more precise. So this is what I have as a thought from my side, Aditya.
Great.
Maybe any other panels can add.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
this is Abhishek. So I would just extend what Kishore mentioned, and today, and this is for all the attendees. Like, the all the collaboration tools are really finding innovative ways to make the virtual meetings, more social, right? So we are human beings. We need some things to express ourselves better, and it's difficult to do it remotely, right? So there are certain features which are coming up in product called live captions. So as people are speaking, it is also typed in the bottom, so that even if you miss out hearing out something, you can read it and understand it. Simple things like a lot more gifs, images, emojis to express yourself, right? These are very simple things. You may ignore it, but it makes your meetings a lot more interactive, a lot more social. Things like blurring background, having a custom background, ability to raise hands to ask questions, because you may find it a little difficult to interrupt while a meeting is going on, right? So all these things are kind of a lot of changes are going on, and if you've not been exploring all this, I would really encourage all the attendees to kind of go ahead and explore. This can just make your meetings a little bit more social and interactive, and more towards making it more comfortable for the attendees.
Right, and just to add Abhishek's comment, I think one of the feature I was sort of want to share with the audience is that recording part, right? So it was being challenged where you cannot record anything, and if you have any issues, people are not able to join the meeting because of time zones and all. I think now things are much convenient in that way, where you can record and ask them to sort of go through later, right? So adding to Abhishek's points in that way, yeah.
So Aditya, I missed one point to mention, and this is related to very specifically for how do you make sure that the people who are coming up on such a collaboration tool, you give them an insight there and there itself. So some of the platforms, what they are doing is they are bringing the insights from the social network and plugging into the same platform when you are in the meeting. Meaning, since I have joined in this meeting, right? I don't know how many audiences are here, but if I could correlate with that platform, they are bringing the social information of those participants to my view, so that then I'm very effectively communicating them, right? In this platform now, we all are connected for this event, right? Many of us have not interacted one-on-one, but then such social gathering information coming into a collaborative way and giving as a feed, as an insight to the panelist will also help, right? For effective communication. And if you could extrapolate this for concluding a business, also make life simpler for people when they are trying to close the deals. So likewise, these collaboration platforms are bringing the insights with the digital way, in bringing insight about to the function, to the movement kind of decision-making capabilities.
Perfect. Yeah. Agreed. Okay, so let's move to the next question. Next question's for you, Abhishek, and the sub-theme is around securing and managing your data. And the question is, in the current scenario where employees are increasingly working from home, many a time using their personal devices, how do you make sure that data is being used effectively and in a secured way? Right, especially in an enterprise scenario, I think this is very, very relevant with so many employees. Really, how do you ensure this at scale?
Yeah. So again, so sometime back, Venu mentioned that different companies may be in different stages of maturity in terms of their adoption of technology, right? So it will vary for. So for example, for a technology firm like us, the transition was not much. We were already operating in that model, but there will be definitely a lot of other industries who would undergo massive transformation. But there are certain fundamentals that I would like to mention. One thing is, and this is something that you can consider even if you have not been doing it. So in today's world and where we are heading towards, your identity is the main thing, right? You have to be able to secure identity. So the traditional model of placing firewalls and we sitting behind firewall is going away, right? So your people will be using accessing data from your home. They will be using your personal devices. So your identity is the new perimeter. So if your identity is not well secured, everything will fall flat at some point of time, right? So there has to be some investment there. So for example, if you have not been using multi-factor authentication, you should consider that. If this is perhaps the right time to do a POC if you have not done that. And today it's a lot more easier to implement these technologies when compared to 10 years ago when you had to go and buy a hardware token devices and things like that. It's no more the need, right? Your phone can function as your multi-factor authentication device. So that just pushes the bar for attackers a notch up, right? So that's one thing. And then when it comes to data security, the fundamental principles haven't changed, right? Your ability to be able to classify data, your ability to protect data at rest when in use and when in transfer are all the same, right? But the technology would, the adoption of technology to enable that would needs to be enhanced and changed a bit. For example, as more and more people are using data from home, you perhaps need to explore a technology which helps you put persistent security with your data. There are different names and nomenclature and acronyms which are used. But for example, one of the, some people may be familiar with rights management, right? So when you kind of use it in the right way, you basically attach the ability to use data, who can use and who cannot use with the data itself, so that as it proliferates and transfers from one machine to another, one place to another, it's still secure, right? And all this is a lot easier to do compared to what it was a decade back, right? So consider those technologies to be adopted. Many people would be using personal devices, right? So for example, even if I have a company provided device, it may go down, right? It might break. What do I do in that scenario? So I will use my personal device. So if you already are using some kind of technology to manage personal devices, great. If not, perhaps again a right time to do a POC and start considering adoption of such technologies, which enables you to kind of attach those personal devices, integrate it with the corporate environment, and secure it while the people are using. So all these are have been in place earlier, but their adoption rate will grow. The people would have to consider them. They'll have to perhaps channel investments from some other area to these areas to kind of enable their workforce to be mobile and still be secure and be productive. So those are some of the things to consider.
Yeah, no, completely agree there, Abhishek. And I do agree with your point that I think the fact that we're going through this whole situation in 2020 is in a way a good thing. I'm glad that we didn't go through this last decade when maybe we weren't as prepared. Right now, I think technology is a lot more mature to handle things like data and really allowing for this whole situation to let your businesses run in a slightly more streamlined way. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think this is a time when we are quite prepared in terms of technology. Technology is matured enough to enable data and privacy at an organizational level much better. So really moving on, next questions for Mr. Swaroop, and the question is, what changes are required in a DR strategy now that we have on-premise, cloud, and hybrid models, remote connectivity? What is next in terms of DR strategy?
Right. I think on the DR strategy, I think people talked about it. I think I will continue from there, because as I'm hearing the other panelists, I got few things which is required, which was I also wanted to capture. I think DR point of view, I don't have to sort of explain the definition in terms of that is a process, procedure, where we want to sort of bring back the critical piece of the business, and we want to have some sort of recovery time and recovery sort of point, right, where we want to recover. And sometimes we say that it is irrecoverable in terms of not reversible, right? So that's why we want to see that we don't want to get into that situation. And from the poll, what I understand, a lot of concern on the virus part, malware part, and I think even Abhishek talked about the identity management and few of the new stuff which can be sort of considered from the DR point of view. That is what is next, right? So what I can say that we are much better prepared, and the audience, what I can recommend that we need to means cloud strategy was always there. Now how the adoption of the cloud strategy, so that we are not dealing and depending on the premises part of it. A very simple example I want to give so that people understand, like VPN. So if you want to add a VPN for your secure connectivity, if you're talking about on-premise and you have 10 sites, all the 10 sites you have to have the VPN hardware and everything you need to put together. That will be a very troublesome effort. But if you are looking for something cloud, and so it can be accessed from anywhere by any place, right? So that is a very good example I can give, right? And the other thing which I want to tell that one thing which we need to also see that that what is changing is the distributed approach. Distributed approach means the DR is no more centralized to like what we used to say, that from the granularity, right? That we need to see the server, then we need to see the network, then rack, then data center, then site, then region, right? That's how we thought, means it has already been thought in that way. And many organizations is already been matured. Might be they have to they might be having some sort of adoption already been done in past years. But now things are getting a little bit distributed, as that is the new challenge, where we don't have a control as people are working from remotely. They are location agnostic in one or the other way. So we don't know where they are working, what they are working, how they are working. And that is part, every panelist actually talked about that part till now, is the security and how we are sort of, how we are adapting few of the technology already we have in place from the different vendors or service provider, where we should adapt those to avoid such issues or such challenges in future, and that might be one of the things to consider as overall DR strategy for individual. There might be many more factors which the organization can take, but these are the things I can recommend that we have to sort of think of and see that how we adapt to those and proceed from there. Yeah, that's all, Aditya, from my side. Yeah, if anybody has to add any point, yeah, you can please. Thank you.
Thank you for your response, Swaroop. That was pretty informative. What we're going to do at this point is basically go back to our polling, and I'm going to ask Maddie to pull up the polls once again for our third poll before we moved on to the second theme of our conversation and the rest of the questions.
One point I want to mention on the DR part, I forget to mention that We need to actually, I think Venu also talked about that on the competency and knowledge. I think that should be one of the factors we need to also consider, that how we are sort of enabling everyone, because in any process or DR, I think three things which we need to consider is the process part, technology part, and people part. So we have to consider all the three parts, right? So I just forget to mention, so I just wanted to add that point. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Completely agree. Okay, so how about Maddie, you pull up the polls for the third poll that you've got planned?
Yeah, thanks, Aditya. So here we go with the third poll. There will be two questions. The first question which will go in there. Are you prepared for the re-entry to office?
I'm also tempted to answer this.
Yeah, but the panelists and us, I think we cannot answer. Yes.
What is your answer though?
The
And let
interesting
Maddie.
one. So I'm closing this and go to the next question. Here we go. The last 5 seconds for this poll question, and then post that I will start publishing both the answers, responses that we have got. So here's the response to our first question, which was, are you prepared for re-entry to the office? So about 75% of the audience would want to continue working from home.
It depends, Abhishek, now in terms of what was your tempting response.
I didn't, but yeah.
Here it is. The next one. What was the biggest challenge that information technology team faced during the COVID-19? Biggest chunk is supporting work from home. The next one followed by that is shift to organization-wide virtual collaboration and environment. I think somewhere around this is what we have been talking. So Aditya, I would hide the answer out here and hand it over to you to take the procedure.
Thanks, Maddie. Appreciate that. Okay, so we're moving on to the second theme of our conversation today, and this one's really around the key differentiator for future business success in the new normal world that we're moving into, from a technology perspective. And the first sub-theme under this is around cyber security and risk. And the first question I've got is for Abhishek. And the question is, Abhishek, we must play safe in this real virtual or virtual real world. With cyber attack increasing by the day and well executed, are we going to see more brutal attacks? What are some of the measures that we should take immediately and on a long-term basis at an enterprise level?
Yeah, so I think that's a very relevant question, Aditya. With everyone working from home, that's definitely a risk that needs to be addressed. And there's a bunch of things that organizations are doing and should be doing. So one is definitely you should go back to some very fundamentals. And let me start with user awareness sessions, right? So almost all organizations will have some or the other form of user awareness sessions, and I think it's time to kind of redo them if you have not already been doing it, and maybe try to make it a little more interactive, a gamification or something like that, where you engage the people a lot more, right? And so SkillEarn is again an education platform. I think this is something that you should definitely consider, but this is fundamental. And some people have different point of view, but I think it's very fundamental. Your user awareness of your employees must be improved, and you have to keep redoing it. You can't just do once and forget about it, right? And then many people, in one of the poll item, I saw that malwares and viruses were the biggest concern. Do you know why? It is because the fundamentals which protect against it is not followed properly, right? So and we have a pretty large environment, massive environment. We still figured out that more than 90% of all the casualties or all the attacks can be prevented by some very fundamental hygiene practices, right? So patching your machine, running antivirus which is updated, running a vulnerability scanner. These are things which we have been doing it for decades, right? Just that you'll have to kind of switch into a mechanism whereby you are able to remotely do it on corporate machines or on personal devices. And there are ways to do this, but this needs to be done. This will provide you protection from most of the attacks, but there are definitely some very sophisticated things which needs to be tackled with. If you see on your screen, this is actually a we have been tracking various kinds of sophisticated attacks, not the normal simple malware, and these are highly related to the news and key developments which are happening around COVID-19. So each of those, starting from the time when WHO declared it a global health emergency to some time back, there are different events, right? And each of those events were taken up by organized criminals to launch very sophisticated attacks, right? And looking at the gravity of this, and this is, I just showed it to show to you how well organized all these cyber criminals are. They're tracking it very closely, and just like businesses are adapting to challenges, they are also adapting to changing scenarios and formulating new attack strategies, right? So that's one. And can we move to the next slide, Saurabh? And when we were running some analytics on our Office 365, which obviously is used by many companies, and this is, I've diluted some numbers because it's being shared in public domain, but this is from actual statistics from our messaging systems, and this shows that pretty much every country in the world have been affected by some or the other COVID themed attacks, right? And these are very novel ways of attacks that attackers are running. Many of them are phishing. So phishing, obviously you have to do a lot of user awareness to tackle it, while there are technical controls that we are implementing to automatically detect and remove it. So by the way, all of these attacks were resolved at the technology end. But even if some of them escape and land to your users should be able to differentiate and be able to respond to that. And they are very interesting ones. So for example, one of the phishing mail, it had the headline as COVID-19 bonus. Now, many people would be tempted to open that. I mean, who wouldn't want to see a COVID-19 bonus that they are getting, right? But there are ways to kind of, bottom line, I think that it's important to run awareness sessions. I think it's important to stick to, implementing all of those hygiene measures, patching, antivirus, vulnerability scanning, all of those things. Strengthen your identity. I'll again go back to that. That's the single most investment that you can do, which will give you high returns in the long run. Implement multi-factor authentication and strengthen your identity. That's really, really important. But yeah, these are some of the things that that needs to be done, that we need to continue doing, apart from adopting various technologies to kind of protect against all this attack. But this is going to continue. This is a real threat.
Great. Thanks, Abhishek.
I would like to add something to the Abhishek's point. That one point is clear, that there is 95% of cyber security breach is due to human error. Human error, if it is not there, there is no way that there can be a cyber security breach. So first thing is what this situation, and I saw that relevant poll where people are interested in working from home. So that adds on to a very specific point that now everyone using a computer is a L1 support resource, which usually is in a IT resource in your organization. So as Abhishek mentioned, that the overall basic checks are certain things which you have to maintain. So it's the left shift for the right shift, right? That means that basically all you people, anybody connecting from home, all employees have to be taught the basic sanitation about your security posture, the change in the overall governance architecture and modification of governance for the resources, how you were doing. So when I have 80% people sitting behind a firewall and a proxy server for internet usage, and where I have a web sense to block the malicious sites, vis-a-vis a person sitting on an open internet on a a non-connected remote client. So obviously cybersecurity has a solution for it, and you have a thin client installed on your laptop which will have your organization policies. But again, the problem is during this time the overall attacks have increased almost 600%. If you see the data, it will be around almost 600% is the increase in overall attacks, and every 39 seconds a hacker is attacking. Okay, and more of this is basically the good thing about this is that cyber security is one of the greatest reference area. If we see the graph which Abhishek has shown, this is for very mature individuals who are using software as a service. But there were like people who are not even using emails from third-party providers, right? They are running their email setup from their data center, which again now was compromised because of a lot of other things, sudden phishing emails coming in, where the tool is not wrong, it's the human intelligence which can kind of stop it. And as technology is growing, AI has been added, as Abhishek was telling, that self-healing systems are there, AI has been added. So there are a lot of other attacks which have been defined by the overall machine learning and ML algorithms. But the whole issue was that if there is a change, if people want to work from home, the posture has to be changed, and the company has to reimagine this whole thing of the whole cyber security piece.
Yeah, no, I agree, completely agree. Okay, so I think let's move on to Imran at this point. Imran, I've got a very specific question for you, and it is, what are the measures that we need to take in consideration for our day-to-day life now, and here onwards, with regards to InfoSec activities, including, at home, office, remote working, IoT, etc.
Okay, it's a pretty lengthy question where you have asked me the entire 360 from enterprise to home to IoT, which is shaping the industry. But let me simplify this as much as possible. As my friends Abhishek and Venu spoke on the cyber hygiene, it doesn't cost to remain clean and hygienic, right? At a human level. The same thought process holds true for the cyber security thing. For organization to be resilient in the cyber security aspect, they need to imbibe the principle of cyber hygiene first. Now, to do that, while there had been a lot of debate, a lot of subjects around the cost of cyber security, most people don't know that there are inherent security controls already been provided in the system itself. I'll speak on that too. The first and foremost is today's the enterprises and the SMB needs to work around on a trust model. The whole key aspect driving the cyber security in the COVID scenario is also crisis in the cyber supply chain and the supply chain management in the real manufacturing and the assets level, right? The second is how effectively you are building that trust model into your enterprise security using the principle of zero trust. So there is a clear-cut guideline from NIST which has been released in the September of 2019, where organization can follow the zero trust security model. It's a prescriptive. but it is not a tool-based model. It is how you are creating the trust ecosystem with the set of controls that would be the guiding principle, which can protect your organization assets. Which essentially means you don't have to trust nobody either from inside and outside. From the outside perspective, the moat and causal model is no more the norms. You need to have an open collaborative environment. We discuss more on the collaboration. We need to interact with our partners. We need to interact with the channels. We need to give liberties to our APIs for innovations, right? So we are living in a systems and enterprises without boundaries. Second, you need to focus on the principle of identity. So identity is just not at your staff level, user level, access level, and authorization, which comes into picture. It is also on the devices level. It is also on your customer identity access management level. Who is accessing your site and how, what digital footprint you are creating, and what are they creating as a digital footprint for you. The second is on how effectively you are managing and authorizing the shadow IT. Now, most of the systems which we heard on the collaboration, the new normals, the work from home, has put a pressure on the entire IT landscape on the shadow IT aspect. So how those rationing of the IT resources has to be controlled. Integrating this with your intuitive next generation controls, which will be around single sign-on using either biometric or cognitive intelligence. The next thing I'll speak on that all too. The other aspect is how effectively the enterprises have their policies, procedures relooked to. Are we going back and checking what are the impact associated for the changes that we have done so far? How the assets are being managed. We are talking of the resiliency in this chapter, which erstwhile in my last decade was a ritualistic exercise when consultants used to come and say, hey, this is your risk, this is your RPO, this is an RTO, these are the set of applications you need to protect. This is no longer going to work out. You need to work for the risk in a different way. What are the impending risks that you are living in with the cyber security, with the number of attacks, velocity which has been increased 600 times is what it has been increased so far. We need to look into that. Second, the security and is not a costly feature. It's more like how you are engineering yourself, how you are adapting to it. And gone are the days that the securities were meant for the larger enterprises. Now security comes based on the posture of your enterprise. A simple thing, if you look at most of the security threats are happening through ransomware and business email compromise and phishing. These are the simple features which can be enabled using any of the subscription based model which are available with any of the hyperscalers like the Azure and the other players who are providing such services in the market. So they are matured MSP, MSSP and SaaS based providers who are providing these services. No longer you need to sell a bomb or an investment onto your technologies to protect those assets and information. So it is accessible. Good old days when we started the security practice, it was difficult for an organization to even take a host-based security suite for their servers and infrastructure, or maybe an SIM into place. The second is, what are the layers of security you are creating to? How effectively you are following with the security by design and security by default principle. Most of the enterprise do not know how to effectively ensure that the security that they are doing into their code, how they are managing the security of the code and security in the code. Adopting to the cloud-based model is a good thing, but however, in cloud, there is a shared responsibility. We as an enterprise, we as a consumer of cloud cannot put the onus of that security to the cloud provider. As a matter of fact, security in the cloud is a responsibility of the customer. Of course, security of the cloud would be provided by the respective hyperscaler. And they are doing right kind of exercise. They are doing a lot of research and innovation on that front. Misconfiguration has been the biggest challenge, as Venu said, on the human error. Misconfiguration has been the biggest error in the entire scheme of things. The third is the ransomware. Most of the enterprises today still do not have a matured host-based security tool or anti-ransomware tool, which hardly costs a few hundred rupees for the endpoints, and they have not adopted to that. And few have implemented, but they have not exercised due best practices in terms of updating it, in keeping those technology relevant. You need to have advanced persistent threat if you are larger enterprises, so that you know what is happening in stealthy, how attackers and pattern of behaviors are working to it. You need to have sensors in your organization. There are three triads in a SOC as per Gartner. One is the SIM and the UBA, which is user entity behavior analysis. The second is the network intrusion detection mechanism. And third is you have how effective you are detecting and responding to such things. So based on the Gartner triad, we are effectively need to have these three triads in place so that we are able to respond in an effective manner. Now, it doesn't mean that you need to have a full-fledged SOC team in place. You can have it with a minimum team of people, even if you are an SME. On top of it, whatever you are doing, as I spoke on the misconfiguration, there are timely alerts and escalation being released with threat intelligence by various agencies. In India, it is by CERT-In and the CERT-In of the various countries, right? The product vendors, the OEMs, with the CVs being released. Last week, I heard of the F5s releasing the CV for the load balancer. So every firms keep on releasing their CV based on the threat posture. The F5 was 7 or 5 out of 10. So we need to benchmark what are the relevance of those CV against the set of technology and product that we are using to. And on top of it, ensure that you're managing the right kind of posture into your organization. Now data is moving outside your enterprise boundary. You also need to ensure a principle of cryptography to be brought in. You need to be thinking ahead of what could be a post-quantum cryptographic mechanism in place. And on top of it, start formulating and start maturing your ISMS and security governance policy as you mature in the journey. The second part of the question was on work from home. In the work from home aspect, as we have given liberty to our staff and our partners to work from home, we need to ensure that the devices and the system which we are working are cleansed, are not a pirated one, are having the right kind of hardening in place. That if you are working or if your enterprises is involved in some kind of data which is confidential and sensitive, ensure that the egress monitoring or a DLP tools are put in place so that that can be taken due guards. Or as a matter of fact, you can avail desktop as service where even all your data, all your information which is being processed by the application is stored at the cloud level and the organization holds the sacrosanct. So the custodian of the data, the custodian of the assets is very much important. What I see today is while the technologies are available, people do not know the classification of the data. What is sensitive, what is confidential, what is critical to them, they still do not know. Tool is good thing, but without having such classification, it renders useless. Secondly, as we have started using the home as our offices, most of the survey which I have recently gone through, most of the VPNs and most of the home routers, which is Wi-Fi devices, are on default password. And that's one reason that today we are able to see the whole world with the IPTV and the CCTV camera, because it is easier to break in a public IP address of a CCTV camera with the default password which are available. So most of the Wi-Fi devices and routers are still set to the default passwords of the ISPs or the providers who have supplied those things. A secured Wi-Fi, a secured home environment is essential. It is not a very big thing to implement. It's more of a practice one need to inculcate at home, right? Third was on the IoT part. So as we get into an IoT part of the industrialization, we need to ensure the device part of the security, how those devices are being enrolled into your ecosystems, what kind of kernel hardening that you are doing it, the certification and attestation that you are doing with your ecosystem has to be robust, so that no other sensor which is not part of, like we have a lot of questions around sensors coming from a non-friendly country or where we have a political conflict. There are mechanisms where you can have your own hardened kernel available, right? On top of it, ensure that you have your encryption mechanism and a certification mechanism which takes care of the enrollment of those devices into your ecosystems, so that no rogue devices are getting into your environment. Have a full-fledged mechanism that you are able to control all the devices, all the sensors which are being connected all in all to. Once that comes into picture, ensure a good practices of NIST IoT engineering Internet Engineering Task Force, which has been released, where it gives good amount of detailing as to how the edge has to be maintained, how the data around this has to be maintained, and how it has to be disseminated across the enterprises. Adopting to IoT would be the biggest cybersecurity blunder if enterprise goes into that avenue without taking due care of how their devices are being used. One estimate says that there are going to be at least 50 billion devices all in all in next 3 years. Now coming back to the technology part of it, I'll just give you a perspective. Most of us use Windows. Now, how many of you actually know there is a Windows Defender and APT tool built on top of it? And we think of getting an additional antivirus tool which can take care of a ransomware. It is already been provided by Microsoft. Now, most organizations are getting into a cloud-based ecosystem, and there is a free pool available with Azure where you can take care of the your on-prem resources within the Azure Security Center. It will give you the APTs, it will give you the vulnerability posters, it will give you the threats which are being prevailing in your organization, and give a full-fledged benchmark if you are relegated against a PCI DSS or any kind of control which are to be done. And there are two pack of again there are two, there's a basic and a standard pack. So basics comes for free. And if you are a bigger organization and enterprise, you can always go for a security sentinel kind of tools, which is a cloud-based ecosystem. So there are, I'm just giving one hypothetical. Of course, there are other tools which are available like the QRadars, the Splunks, and of the world, which can take care of such things. So why I'm not selling the tools out here, my core focus is how effectively you are taking care of the InfoSec and cybersecurity posture in this entire ecosystems. Your applications, your mobile applications, your web applications, how essentially you are safeguarding your emails is essential. Most of the organizations have not set their DMARC in the right perspective. It is nothing but a configuration which can take care of and filter your spam if you have done your configuration in the right perspective. The DKIM SPF has not been configured, right? Now you have the social engineering which is coming into picture. If your email system is relegated or at the mercy of so much of attacks, it is bound that your users would be lured to any of the phishing. So effectively, you need to control that in place so that your users have the little knowledge and information, and they are also been part of the training session where they know or they are being simulated how much of errors they are doing to. That's the whole set of awareness and simulation which is required in an enterprise. There has been case within a span of half an hour, an email from a CEO has been spammed and breached during a time when he was in flight. So those kind of attack postures are changing, and we need to ensure just not at one level but at across whole level: network, data, access, identity, cloud, your continuous vulnerability management is what we need to take care of. We don't have to think of we have done the patch and we can scale n-2, n-3. The patch and vulnerabilities are evolving because the threat and risks are real time. Every second there are new threats and risks being evolved. So you cannot say I have patched in and a big four has audited me, so I'm I'm immune to such things. It is no longer the case. So your AppSec, your continuous security in your CI/CD pipeline has to be brought into picture, which can take care of such codification in the right way. And as we get into the next generation technologies, we need to ensure that your applications are also aligned to a CI/CD pipeline, a microservices architecture, which can give you a resilient architecture. A traditional model of what Sarup sir said, no longer you should rely on a data center and server. And I come from that industry, but you don't have to rely on that industry, or you don't have to rely on that model. You as an enterprise need to come up to us. Hey, this is my application. It is stateless. It can fail over irrespective where it resides to. So you, Cloud4C, you Azure, you AWS, you need to ensure the availability of the infrastructure. The availability of my application is so strong that I would be able to contest my application in all norms. And that should be your preparedness for your application. Look at Netflix. They have created that model on a pure play microservices architecture. Unless and until we do not create our application, do not create our infrastructure decoupled or loosely coupled, we will not be able to come out of those loops, right? So these are some of the best practices we need to follow. All in all, as a matter of fact, in security, I can speak on each of the domain at length. We need to ensure right kind of forensics into the picture. We are granting a lot of power to our users and super admin. So we need to have an audit trail to them, to ourselves, right? Which is around your privileged identity, which is around your audit trail, which is around your detection capabilities. And all those things we need to have it. You need to have a robust incident response and mechanism in place. And to have, and this is why one reason, if India has to go on to the trajectory of becoming the world largest supply chain leader, the global company would be looking on those currencies on us. How resilient we are in our ecosystem, not just our mechanism to respond back to changes, not our ability to manufacture something. It would be how effective that we are against these norms, which are again a threat to our business at any point of time, and it is real time, right? Okay. So we need to ponder on these situations. We need to actually relook into all those things, not just as a prescriptive manners. Whatever I spoke is generalistic. One side doesn't fit all. From enterprise 1 to enterprise B, or it may not be the same scenario, and it requires a deep sense of learning as to what it means for them in terms of the business, how they are serving their enterprise, how they are serving their customers, and what are they, who are their regulators are they a bank, are they an NBFCs, are they an insurance, are they a drug manufacturing firms? And on top of it, we are also at the backdrop of data privacy and data localization. So we need to be even more cautious how we are treating the data, how we are managing the data from that aspect of security. We just cannot keep on nudging our customer and keep collecting the data. Ultimately, this is our second thing. We would be responsible once the data privacy bill has been enacted in the parliament. Right. So that's it for me. I open it to the panel if they have more questions, or in the audience if they would like to hear more.
Wonderful, wonderful. Very, very, I think not only prescriptive, but I think we got a very elaborate view on it. I'm just stepping in like we do in any kind of business continuity situation. This is a little bit of that Aditya had to move out for an important call. And I'm just trying to, let's see how we can complete this discussion now in terms of coming back. So I can say that, very insightful thoughts from all of the leaders present today. Thank you for that. Last but not the least, and Maddie, you can meanwhile go towards doing the polls as I kind of complete. So let's do that simultaneously. what has been, and this is to everybody as a round robin, what has been, each of you, if you can please contribute towards this, that what have been your key learning from this crisis period, technologically speaking or otherwise, that can make sense. What do you suggest to this group to ensure that, in the future, we have a tech readiness built in and resilience also imbibed? So, your two bits to it will be really thoughtful for all the people who are listening, and as well as because we will be sending this video out, so I'm sure that many more would be able to seek help from seeing this and viewing your comments. So let's start with Swaroop. Your key learning from the crisis period, and what do you suggest to this group from the future tech readiness perspective?
Yeah, I think it's standing out. I think the cyber security is one of the key thing what you have already put. Within that, it might be difficult to categorize, but definitely cyber security is one of the key aspect. Everybody has to see that we have the key learning from there. And I think well said by Abhishek that how the technology adoption is happening. That's a good part, that we do have the technology. It's not that what we had 10 years back. So adoption to the technology to address these things will be the key learning, I think. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Venu sir.
As per me, in terms of industry has learned, and for us, what we have done is there were 5 phases. Okay, so first was we were fighting the phase. We were in terms of the process wherein we were trying to resolve an issue. So successfully, almost have been involved in resolving a lot of issues, wherein which we have talked of cybersecurity, DRs and DRs not running, people connectivity and all. Remote connectivity and all those things. And then second was resilience. So I think if you see the overall stats, we have been, my learning was like to be adopt to the change. So recently you have given an example right now that you were taking over as a part of business continuity. So this is not resilience, this was business continuity. So have taken over things like resilience was basically understood, and the importance of resilience, because resilience and business continuity go hand in hand, but they are not the same thing. And then now we are returning wherein we have to reimagine and reform these things. So this is basically the learning I have, where we had done a resolution, were involved part of resolution, can talk about it a lot in depth, but in the interest of time, leave it there. And then now we are just at a phase of reimagining, where all the speakers have put in their thoughts on cybersecurity, DR connectivity, business continuity, and the overall services being provided. So that is a part of reimagination we are doing. And obviously reforms would come in slowly and gradually. So these were the 5 things. I think they have been identified by a lot of big fours as well. So
Yep, do agree. So how about Abhishek, your final thoughts?
Yeah, so thank you, Saurabh. And I think many of the things that we talked about today, at least for me, and I've spent a long time in Microsoft now, we have been doing this already been doing this. That's one of the benefit of being in a large technology company, which is at the forefront. For me, I think the biggest learning is that I have tried to be more. I've become more conscious of my team. I've become. I think the human aspects is what have been the new insight for me. I've tried to become a little more empathetic. Try to take care of the team who might be going through a lot of stress. Some people have medical emergencies. Some people have lost their job. So I think it's a world where while we solve a lot of these challenges, we really need to be a lot more empathetic to our customers, our team, our employees, and that has been for me one of the learnings. That's how I would put it.
Very nicely. Would love to be part of your team now.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. It's nothing like having an empathetic manager, with being, supportive with you. So great point, Abhishek. Kishore,
You're
if
doing
you can,
you're doing
put
a great job. by doing this series, Saurabh. Let me tell that also. Thank you.
Thank you. Our part. Yes. Kishore, if you can put in your perspective to this, your learning
Yeah.
and what we can learn from.
Sure. So the quick 2-3 points what I would like to highlight, and since most of the audiences are more from a business and operations side, so quick one I would give that as an insight. So I think what we should look for, and the learning from this platform also, is that we should build a work from anywhere platform, not a pinpoint solution kind of. We should have a platform wherein this remote working can help. Another thing is we should also look for that what technologies are available and which are going to help us in doing the productivity for our business. We should only focus on those, although there are a lot many technologies around, but it is more about how do you make them best use for your own purpose. So that's one. And redefining the people strategy so that when we are going to work from remote, right, they should actually do a complement to the business and not call for the challenges the way we have seen that on the security side of it, what all challenges are coming on our way. And then last but not the least is how do we bring the insights for the people who are going to work remotely? Those insights could give them a better productivity when they are working from remote. So that's the closing thought from my side, Saurabh. Quick and crisp.
Great. Thank you, Bingban. Those valuable pointers. Maddie, you can while also start showing the results while I go to Imran. Your final comments to end the show.
Yeah, so point here is we are yet to come out of a solution. One,
Imran, Imran, you're on mute.
I think we lost him.
Maybe there is a lag or delay. Yeah, it shows offline. Yeah. Okay, so Maddie done.
Couple more. Give me a second. So this is the last one. Done with the poll answers.
Okay, wonderful. So without much ado to this, sorry for Imran not putting in his last pointers. I guess there is some. I can see him offline, so maybe some network issues, which came through as a poll question also. That I think it was number 2. Network issues are all across because you can find out how much is the stress on the network otherwise that we are putting home plus office everything together plus the children's education. Now education is also there as part of, so the I think network is beyond the stretch limit, and thankfully India is doing a great work. So like Abhishek also mentioned earlier that had it been a decade earlier this thing, we would have miserably failed, I think, India. But our infrastructure is actually speaking about us, and I'm proud. I'm proud that India is making progress. So thank you. I can just in terms of closing this, I learned a lot from the entire panel. Each one of them, great perspective. Each of them are knowledge holders of their domain, from security to infrastructure to the domain of what new applications are coming through, including perspective of how we should be ourselves, the simple hygiene that we need to maintain. I just cannot stop talking about how much I acquired the skills of technology in the last 1.5 hours. Thank you for such great guidance, panel. I thank each one of you for giving your time, precious time to us. Like I said, this videos will be available to the people after even this panel discussion is over, and I'm sure it will start trending in once people they view it and they start telling to the industry that what of value. I'm sure the people who are here today as attendees, and I thank each one of them also taking their time out of their schedule from the weekend timing, if you want to call it, because it's second Saturday today. So thank you everyone for having taken the time off on the panel. As part of an attendees, if you like this, please tell the industry about it, and we will be shortly sharing the videos, which you can also share internally within your resources or organization to have more knowledge sharing. So thanks everyone on this our initiative towards the business resilience, organization resilience. We have done with the people, we have done with the workplace, the process as such, and today was technology. Next coming up next week will be on finance and a great lineup of speakers. So thanks one and all, and look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the panelists. Thank you.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Ready, please close.